So like I said, I love this town. I've been in town just for the day, really, for some R&R, really to recover from the flight. Yesterday I traveled for about 18 hours, and you might ask why. Well, one thing, because I'm cheap and I like cheap flights. But the other reason why was it allowed me to take 8 hours in London and have a beautiful day there. And also to reacclimate myself to the time difference. So there's a time difference between here and there, and the best way to come to Europe is to come here and then stay up all day and go to sleep at the correct time, even though it's a little bit tiring to do so. And so I stayed up 18 hours last night and fell asleep exhausted about midnight, and or 10ish, and woke up this morning and felt pretty good. This morning I came early in the morning to the cathedral, which is here behind me. It's the cathedral that John Paul II would have sat in. Of course, the cathedral has a bishop's chair, cathedra. And so this is the Cathedral of Krakow. Like many medieval towns, cathedrals tend to be pretty small in medieval towns, and inside the walled fortifications of the town, because that way if enemies invaded, the bishop and his chair, his seat of authority, would be kept safe. So we're inside what's called the Wawel, the king's castle here, and the cathedral, and behind me the archiepiscopal residence. That would have been John Paul II's residence, is situated next door to the king's palace, which is right here, and the other buildings that would have housed the staff for the king and for the archbishop and for the running of the government of Poland. It's one of my favorite places. It's a beautiful sort of garden type area, and it's great to come up here and pray, especially early in the morning when no one else is here, and it just sort of brings you back to sort of another world. There's so many different pieces of history when you come to a European city, particularly here in Krakow, which has been sort of on the crossroads of the world for the last 1,000 years. In 988, Duke Mieszko converted to Catholicism, and with him brought the entire Polish people. And since then, Poland has been a Catholic country pretty much without interruption. But it's been a sort of a tragic country because it's on the crossroads of Europe, geographically the absolute center of Europe. The Germans, the Prussians, the Russians have all set their sights on controlling Poland at various times in history. And so, as a result, Poland has been invaded over and over and over again, was taken over and partitioned twice in the 19th century, but has always come back more and more vibrant, particularly because of its Catholic faith. Many people don't know that for a long period of time, Poland was the second largest kingdom in Europe, and was quite strong during the Middle Ages because of its riches that it possessed, particularly salt. Salt was particularly valuable in the Middle Ages, and Poland has one of the longest and deepest mines of salt in Europe, and it's still functional today. It's called Wieliczka, and if you came here to Krakow, you could sort of check out the salt mines down hundreds and hundreds of miles, well, not hundreds of miles, hundreds and hundreds of feet, should I say, under the ground. The miners carved into the salt chapels and houses and everything they needed to live their lives, because they stayed underground and dug salt all day. And the chapels are really beautiful and ornate, and many people go to see them even to this day. But it shows sort of how central the faith is to Polish culture and life. That faith was what allowed them to survive multiple separations, partitions. The country was broken apart twice. It allowed them to survive the Nazi invasion during the Second World War and the communist attacks before the Second World War, and then again after the Second World War, when the communists took over Poland and for 50 years really oppressed them. It's really beautiful where you walk the streets here. You see all sorts of memories of suffering, but also such a witness to the Catholic faith that helped the people here get through all of the difficulties in their lives. And so that's all, I guess, for today from the King's Castle, the Wawel in Krakow.